Good morning. I'm Rowena Crosby.
And I'm Deborah Renner, and we're your co-hosts for this show. Thank you for joining us for the next 17 minutes for your IT show. Nope, we're not talking information technology. We're talking Your Invisible Toolbox, the show that examines the tools that are essential for working effectively with others.
And we welcome you to today's live broadcast. In previous episodes, we've talked about the subject of change, and we're going to reintroduce it today. And we're going to do that by looking at a pervasive myth and debunking it.
And we're going to share an example that everyone can relate to. And this is going to inform us of how people actually do adapt to change. And we're thrilled to have Linda Cook from Gilbert & Cook. And she is going to be our interview guest. She is a leader in the financial industry. And she's going to be talking about changes in her industry, changes in her business, and changes with regards to her clients as well.
And those of you who are frequent viewers of this program know that the tools that we present on this show are drawn from this book that Deb and I co-authored called Your Invisible Toolbox, The Technological Ups and Interpersonal Downs of the Millennial Generation. It explores 100 useful interpersonal tools. It's available on Amazon, and it's now available in Barnes & Noble as well.
Yes.
Those of you following along in the book, we're going to be looking at the tool presented in Chapter 72.
Well, all of us like to have a role in decision making, especially if we're impacted by the decision, and we like to have our ideas considered. And it's especially true for the millennial generation. They say that that generation, more than any other, will want to be asked for their opinion and actually seek out other people's opinions before making a decision. We always say everyone needs to weigh in, and we could custom embroider that on a t-shirt for that generation.
It could be their motto, asking everybody to weigh in, and they were raised, many of them, to weigh in on decisions as minor as what would you like for dinner, to as major as where should the family go on vacation. And interestingly, this particular aspect of them being imprinted early in a collaborative way may make them uniquely qualified to lead change in organizations better than the generations before them.
Absolutely.
Why is that?
Well, this is the segment of our program that we call Mythbuster, and we take a commonly held myth and debunk it. And today we're going to take a look at one of the most commonly held beliefs about change. And we're going to find out, do people really resist it?
Do people resist change? Well, let's examine that. What would you think of a parent who decided they wanted kindergarten to be the surprise of their child's life? So they didn't talk about kindergarten, and on the first day of kindergarten, they put their little person in the car, take them down to the school building, and they announce, this is kindergarten. You're going to love it here. You're going to make new friends. You'll learn a lot of things. I'll pick you up this afternoon. How is that child likely to react? Well, they'll probably throw a fit.
Parents seem to know that. And so that's not usually how they handle that situation or what they do. So let's talk about what parents do to prepare that child.
Well, one thing they do is they talk about it. And they don't do it just once in some big formal presentation. They look for opportunities to have ongoing dialogue about the change that's coming.
Well, and they can even share their own experiences. Even if it was long ago, they can talk about what it felt like when they were in kindergarten.
And they may talk about how they're feeling personally about the experience of having their little kid start to grow up to be a big kid.
And they might pull in a brother or a cousin or a neighbor who has gone to kindergarten to get that firsthand credible source of what school's like, what the teachers are like.
Yes, a little bit of a peer group.
Mm-hmm.
They might drive the child down past the building and introduce to them the teacher.
And anymore, most children go to preschool, so they have an idea of what school feels like, even if it's just in a small sense.
And they really involve the child in some of the decision making, not the big decision about whether or not you're going to kindergarten, that's a done deal, but smaller decisions like shopping for the clothes for the first day or shopping for school supplies.
Those new shoes.
The new shoes.
Every child gets. So we think about that. When parents do that, what's the reaction on the part of the child?
Well, they're excited. Yeah. They're motivated. They're looking forward to the change. We challenge you to keep the child home that day. They get themselves up early, they get dressed, they're ready to go. So let's return to our myth. Do people resist change?
Well, this example is like thousands of other similar examples we could take a look at that all of us undergo with regards to change. We don't really resist change. What we resist is the unknown. And so we have to make the unknown knowable to people.
Absolutely. And there are a lot of misperceptions and myths around change, but none so dangerous or pervasive as this belief that people resist change. So what does this tell us about change in the workplace?
Well, it's time to look at our invisible tool of the week. Ro, will you share that with our viewers?
I'd be delighted to. Our invisible tool of the week is to actively involve others. And we just looked at several examples of how a parent does that with their little person when they're preparing them for kindergarten. And they do it with a lot of success. In fact, many parents report that they're the ones that are crying on the first day of kindergarten instead of the little person.
That's so true. And think about what a huge change kindergarten is for a small child. That's a huge change. It rocks their world as they know it. And in organizations, we go through change, but are they as big as what that would mean to a little child? And yet parents have figured out how to effectively navigate and lead the child through it.
Yeah, and so let's shift the discussion to business. Why is it that these same parents who are able to prepare their child for a big change like kindergarten have much lower success rates in preparing their employees for the changes ahead? And there's a train of thought that says that leaders don't care about people, but the evidence is overwhelmingly against that theory. Leaders spend an enormous amount of time worried about how the changes are going to affect people, dialoguing what the effect on morale is going to be with the change. But unfortunately, they usually do it in their own peer group and often behind closed doors.
Yes, and what they fail to do is to imprint the change frequently and early on. And that way people can, those emotions that they're going to have, people can get used to the fact of the change.
And there are countless examples of employees finding out about the change through media outlets or on the internet rather than even hearing about it from their own leaders.
Or it might be that they have an all-company meeting, a one-time formal communication or a crafted email that goes out to everyone informing people of the change, and they don't get a chance to really talk about the emotions that they're experiencing or ask the questions they might have in order to make the unknown more known.
Yeah, and those crafted emails, those big company meetings, leaders comfort themselves by saying, well, we've communicated it. But in our research at Tero, we know that one-way communication is really a narrow definition of communication. To be effective, it needs to actively involve others. And if the change is a big one, it needs to be frequent.
It simply can't be a one-time communication. That would be like putting our child in the car on the day of kindergarten with no preparation and dropping them off.
Well, those of you who follow Tero on social media know that we post links several times every day to useful resources. We're going to highlight two of those today. The first one is a link to a Harvard Business Review article, and it's called Organizations Can't Change If Their Leaders Can't Change With Them. The author is Ron Carucci, and he really examines the unproductive behaviors of leaders and that ongoing tape that plays in our head. You'll find links to that article on all Tero social media platforms today.
And our second featured social media post is a Forbes article, and it's titled, The Single Most Important Leadership Skill to Thrive in Change, and it's by Sabina Naraz. And there is one skill they say leaders have to have, and that's the ability to be a good coach. This is going to be on all social media platforms for Tero on Friday.
And we're excited now to move into the segment of the program we call This Week's Interview, and we're delighted to welcome Linda Cook, founder and partner at Gilbert & Cook, a financial planning firm here in Des Moines. Good morning, Linda.
Good morning, Linda.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Now, Linda's a leader in the financial services industry, and in your nearly 25 years, you've seen a lot of changes, some actually industry. You're in a heavily regulated industry.
Absolutely.
Some changes that are just due to normal economic cycles that happen in business, and many self-imposed that you've introduced to grow your own business. We're excited to hear about them.
Well, Linda, can you talk to us a little bit about the recent changes in your business?
Over the last year, I'd be delighted to. Thank you. Over the last year, we have registered directly with the SEC. So our business has gone through quite a few changes, and with that registration, it pretty much affected every aspect of our business. And one of the things we had to do was to move the assets that we manage for our clients and open up new accounts at a new custodian. Now, the custodian is the person that actually holds all the money. We don't actually hold the money, so the custodian holds the assets. So it was 1,400 accounts that got moved over a 3-week period. I want to talk about change.
That probably affected everybody.
Yes. And people are little touchy about their money.
Yes.
Go figure.
What's up with that?
How do you prepare your employees for that?
Well, I think it started over a year of planning and preparation, and as a leader, it was my job to really cast that vision and to help people understand the whys behind how we want to do that. And then getting the team involved, everyone on the team. One of the things we did was we made a list of our wish list of if this, then that. If we had this tool, then it would be easier to service our clients. If we had that, our clients would be easier to log into their accounts. All of those wish list items, and it got people excited about that change rather than dreading that change.
Absolutely. And what about the clients? How did you prepare them? Because I imagine that was challenging for them.
That was challenging, and I think part of it was doing a lot of the preparation on the front end so that we were all communicating the same message to the client, and then starting that message with some baby steps and with the whys, and not getting into the hows as much as the whys with that client.
Yes. Confidentiality in your industry is huge. So how do you lead people through change while preserving that confidentiality that you need to think about?
And that's a very delicate question. Confidentiality is critical to everything we do. And I think that it puts a challenge for change because we can't mass communicate something when it's such an individual experience, your money, and we have to spend that time one-on-one communication. It's a conversation directly with somebody, not just a message on their phone or an email. It has to be, and here's how it's going to affect, and this is what this is going to look like, and here's how you're going to log in. All of those things, and really hold somebody's hand and walk them through that change. I think you'll have we ended up with much better success with that approach rather than trying to mass communicate and risk a breach of confidentiality.
Well, that really coordinates with what we were talking about in terms of the communication around change. What advice would you offer others who are leading people through change?
Mm-hmm. I think it really starts with your culture, and as a leader, I would recommend a culture of growth and improvement. And if you can foster that mantra of getting your team to continually grow and look for opportunities to grow, that really fosters change, because then they're excited about the next new thing, and they're excited about the growth that's happening in the industry, in the business, with new clients coming on board. And it's a lot easier to get your arms around and continually learn and challenge yourself.
Yeah, we can only imagine that you help a lot of clients through change, not just with regards to their finances, but maybe how they're dealing with the communication in their families with regards to that. Can you talk a little bit about that?
I'd love to. Our business, so much is a very personal. Our mantra is live a life of abundance, and so we want to help those clients live a life of abundance with confidentiality, and also find ways to help their families deal with change. One of the examples I can give you is estate planning. People don't always communicate that estate planning they might have a fantastic plan in place, but then their kids never know about it. And when
tragedy happens,
a car accident happens, something happens, and then it's dropped in their lap, and families aren't prepared to deal with that change. Right. And the best thing the best advice I can give you is communicate that to your families. You don't have to communicate numbers, but you can communicate process and people. And we do a family meeting that is so helpful for our clients' families to just feel that security around that.
Wow.
Thank you so much.
What a gift to them.
Yes.
Thank you, Linda, for being here with us.
Thank you.
And thank all of you for joining us. If you missed any portion of this program or would like to share it with others, you'll find the entire program loaded up to Tero's YouTube channel. Tune in again next Monday morning at 9:03 Central Time, where we're going to explore the subject of credibility.
And now it's your turn. We welcome your ideas and suggestions for future shows. What customer interactions, leadership situations, team interactions would you like to discuss? Email your ideas to ideas@yourinvisiblettoolbox.com. Follow the link below and feel free to get out there and join us on whatever your social media platform, your favorite one, is. We would also like to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel. That way you'll be alerted to when future shows air. And we'd like to give a thank you to Kyle Plummer, our cameraman and director.
And thank you for joining us today. And that's a wrap.